Welcome to the Wisdom to Wealth podcast. We are back with another phenomenal guest. This is the podcast where we interview the wealthiest entrepreneurs and business owners in the world in order to hear their stories on how they were able to build their business with such success, but also overcome any type of fear or limiting beliefs that helps to motivate us as we're building our business now. So I'm Shamar Star Cox, TV producer and marketing coach. My goal is to help six-figure business owners create binge-worthy content in order to increase your reach, your leads, and your sales. So if you are watching now, I am also the founder of the Convert Content to Cash Challenge. If you want to learn how to create content that sells, if you want to learn how to build a loyal and buying online community, all you have to do is comment the word challenge accepted or DM me on Instagram, and you'll get personally invited to the challenge. Today, we have the wonderful Carolyn Herfurth with us. For 22 years, Carolyn has been instrumental in launching over 100 businesses and accelerating the growth of thousands more. Today, her clients experience an average of 11x ROI within 3 to 12 months. That's amazing, by the way, and has grown to seven figures in annual revenue. She's also the co-founder of Imposter Syndrome Institute, where she's played a key role in scaling Dr. Valerie Young's groundbreaking work on imposter syndrome, which a lot of us have experienced. I'm really looking forward to Carolyn sharing some tips with us on this specific topic. Together, they've secured licensing agreements and trained coaches, speakers, and facilitators in 23 plus countries. Carolyn, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. You have such great energy and you're doing such great work for our fellow entrepreneurs. So,
Thank you. I'm happy you said that. This morning was a little rough, but I said, no, we got to have this energy come out anyway. So I'm happy you said it.
we were meant to talk to each other today.
Exactly. Let's jump into your story. Take us on your journey from zero to where you are now. What struggles did you face? What was the aha moment that made you realize that you were on the right path?
Well, I did start my business 22 years ago, and it has been a roller coaster of a ride. Which actually, and I'll share my personal experience, but basically, we go through this entrepreneur's evolution where you start off and you're all starry-eyed, and your expectations are up here, and your results are down here, and you kind of like your expectations and your results kind of start to like cross like this. And it took me a really long time to notice that and figure that out. So I had left corporate America. I left a multiple six-figure job. I thought my first year in business would also be multiple six figures. Well, I made about, what do we say, $20,000 my first year. It was so painful, such a wake-up call. And so I really had to buckle down and figure out what was happening up here. Mm-hmm. And I was able to grow that business to multiple six figures. And then I wrote a book. Happened to be on franchising. I wrote a book about how to buy a franchise. And as soon as I wrote the book, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to help people find and start franchises. And it was just like this sudden, it was like a 7-year itch type of thing.
Yeah.
And so I decided I went on this quest, and I decided I was going to do something else. And I started a business to train entrepreneurs on how to sell. Like, how do you sell without being inauthentic? How do you just sell like who you are? And that business turned into, evolved into helping people really look at their business model. Because if you're not selling something you're really behind, and it doesn't match up to who you are as a human, then you're going to have a really hard time selling that thing. And so I found a lot of times I was helping people fix their offers or their business model, and really more how all the parts work together of their business. I call it the 5 pillars. And that's when I just I was cooking with gas. Like I'd gone up, I'd gone down, I'd gone up again. It was like, and then like 4 or 5 years ago, Dr. Young is a friend of mine. And she said, we were just having a conversation like you do with a peer. And I said, have you ever thought of licensing? Because she's regarded as the world's foremost thought leader on imposter syndrome. And she said, I've thought about it, but it's a lot of work. And then she called me 2 weeks later and she goes, I would do it if you'll go in 50-50 with me and be my co-founder. So it kind of took my eye off of my own business, helping entrepreneurs grow, to help one entrepreneur grow.
Yeah.
And so that's but now I will take on the occasional client now that we've kind of like
Yeah.
evened out. Yeah. That was a
I
very
love
long answer, but yeah.
I love it. And like, here, this story. Okay, I have a question for you, but before I get to the question, just what I'm noticing. One thing you said was, when you're starting off, your expectations up here, but the results are down here. And making that 20K in your first year, I was the same way. I made $21,000 in my first year in business, and this is after like 50K in coaching. So I was looking at God like, the math ain't mathing. But how were you able to maintain your motivation and inspiration, even when you were seeing the ups and downs, even when you were trying to transition? How were you able to maintain that?
Oh man, that is such a great question. I had my days where there was so much self-doubt.
Yeah.
And the thing that ultimately got me through it is to remember I'd had successes before. I
Yes.
deserve success. And also, I stopped attaching my success to one person's answer.
Mm.
So if I was going to like, oh my gosh, Susan has to buy from me, or I'm not going to be able to pay rent this month. Oh, and by the way, in the middle of all this, I of course moved to New York City, and doubled my cost of living.
Of
So,
course you did in New
brilliant,
York City. Of
brilliant
course.
idea, right? But I started, instead of being like, oh, I really need Susan to buy from me, I was like, I hope she makes the right decision for herself. And I would lie in bed in the morning and I would just be like, whoever was kind of on my radar, just like, I hope she makes the right decision for herself and for her business and her clients. And literally, I would have that little mantra in my head. I go to my laptop and there'd be an email from that person. I want to hire you.
I love that. I love that. What makes it so good is that you move from this space of desperation, of which it was like, this person got to pay my bills. And now it's this space of inspiration and just knowing your worth and your power. Like, actually, I'm here to serve. I'm here to transform your life if you will allow me to. And I love that you were speaking life over them. They didn't know it, but you were speaking over them. Like, I hope that they make the right decision that's best for them, and then you were able to see the results. So I could just see you shifting from this space of like, man, I need that person so I can pay my bills, to, you know what? No, I know who I am. I know that I can serve. And I just hope that they make the right decision. And then they do in that space. Like, energy is so contagious. When I'm talking to my clients, I tell them, when you're selling, you're transferring energy. If you transfer nervous energy, that person's not going to buy, because now they're going to get nervous. So I love that you were transferring this positive energy to them. Did you want to add anything to that?
No, I there are probably a million other things we'll want to talk about in our time together. So
I know, right?
Yeah, I'll just say ditto on energy. It's crucial to manage that.
Love it. Love it. So let's go into your next phase now, which was you became a partner, or a co-founder for Imposter Institute. So as you were helping do this, by this point in your life, you already had your business, it was already thriving, and now you were making this shift. What inside of you said, it's okay to make this shift?
Well, I mean, frankly, I underestimated how much work it was going to be. So when I started the business with Valerie, the idea was, well, I'll work, half my time on my business, coaching the outlier entrepreneur who is, the person who's already making multiple six figures. And then the other half of my time will be on Imposter Syndrome Institute. Well, Imposter Syndrome Institute quickly turned into 60 hours a week. And all of a sudden I'm like looking at my business and I'm like, whoa. But I was having so much fun, and it was new, and Valerie and I were just creating and attracting all these people from all over the world. Our first launch was a 6-figure launch. Like, that's pretty exciting, right? I should say just shy of 6 figures. It's like literally like dollars.
Right.
But, so it was really, it's like, all right, we teamed up, we've got this thing going. It was great. And then one of my friends, and so it's been wonderful. Like we've created these programs that really work on her thought leadership around imposter syndrome and how to manage it for yourself or for others, or to deliver talks about imposter syndrome. So it's been really amazing. But then I hit another this summer. One of my best friend said, we were just talking about my coaching business, and she said, you know, have you ever like looked at the results your clients have gotten you know, when you were doing coaching? I go, well, let me just go back and look at my last 10 clients. And all of a sudden I was like, why am I leaving that gift on the back burner? Like, that's not fair. It's not right. And every time I talk about it, I get so lit up because I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that my clients get an 11x ROI on average. Not everyone, some get more, some get less, but you know, they're adding 6 and multiple 6 figures to their business. And I'm like, and I love it so much because it's so bespoke, it's custom, it's tailored. And then I said to Valerie a few months ago, a couple months ago, I said, I want to start taking on coaching clients again, because it was always the plan. It's just that, you know, for 4 years, I've been on this one thing. And so I am so energized by that. So there's like another thing, right, in the entrepreneur's evolution. So
I was just about to ask you about that. So you've had several evolutions, going up, going down, but it seemed like each time you went down, it was because it was time for you to make this transition. Have you noticed a pattern in yourself that lets you know, okay, the season for what I'm working on right now is ending and it's time for me to go in another season? And how are you able to easily transition into that season?
Well, it didn't used to be easy. And it's such a great question. God, you are such a good interviewer. You really are. You ask great questions. It's not easy. That's the thing. So here's what I've learned. And I think I have talks on the internet about this. When something feels off, it doesn't feel what it used to feel like. And when I find myself resisting that feeling, I know it's time for some kind of change. And instead of thinking, oh, well, I'm going to have to go change everything, what I learned is sometimes you just need to move the knob this way just a little bit. Or maybe that knob needs to go all together and you're going to replace it with something else. But I think the fear that what we have going that's already working, or the fear that the new idea is going to not be what we want it to be, or like, you just have to roll with it. And actually, you know, to mention the 5 pillars, what I do is I have people just look at how would you rank each of these parts of your business, each of these pillars of your business, and why? And all of a sudden it will become very clear to you, oh, this is really the part of my business that isn't working, and here's why. Or here are the 3 parts of my business. And then you're able to start tackling it more objectively than just it being a big bundle of feelings.
Yeah. Oh, this is so good. You didn't say this word, but I pulled it out when you were just talking about first something feels off. You have to be self-aware in order to recognize that something is actually off. And then you talked about the fear that pops up when you're ready to make this transition, but it's also the wisdom in knowing that you don't have to let everything go. It's just one thing, being able to identify that one thing. And so let me ask you this. How do you help your clients to identify that one thing that needs to shift? That's going to be the question. How do you help them identify that?
I always start with the pillars. And then the next thing I do is I have them lay out their entire business model for me, their low touch, medium touch, and high touch. So I can see what's leading to the next thing, what's tying back, what's excess, what's this. So I really want to understand. And what's interesting is when entrepreneurs lay out their entire business model and all of their offerings on one page, they're like, oh my God, what am I doing? I mean, before they even get to me, they know that they've have some things that they can let go of, which is great. And then I only work with one-on-one clients. I only work with the outlier entrepreneur who's, has an established business. But what we do is we sit down for half a day and we just talk. and I ask a whole bunch of questions about, I haven't go through a very long questionnaire, but the pillars and the business model layout are big parts of that. And I just ask questions, and almost always they have an idea or ideas. Well, I've always wanted to do this, or I tried this, but it didn't work. I thought it'd be really cool to do this. And I thought it would bring in like another $150,000 a year, but I'm not really sure because it might interfere with this thing over here. We just talk about it. That's why I call myself a strategic thought partner, because I'm not coming in going, here's my blueprint, here's my cookie, like do this thing. I am literally looking as the kind of the wingman for this business owner, and we talk it out, and then we come up with what the plan is going to be. So it is, sometimes I'm the one coming up with the idea, but usually it's because they have ideas, and I might say, well, what if we just did it this way instead? And then we lay out the whole plan. Here's what the offer is. Here's what the promise is. Here's how much you're going to charge for it. Here's how here's how you're going to market and get leads for it. Here are the sales conversations going to happen. I mean, one of my clients, Pia Silva, we did that. We changed two things in her business. One is we raised the price on a product she was already selling online. And she hadn't made any sales in that for 6 months. She made 3 sales within a week by raising the price. Wow. And then we created a new program, and she had booked $180,000 in business within 30 days of sitting in the room with me. So that's how I do it. I listen, I say, this is what I'm hearing. What do you think? What about this? What about that? So it's a process, but it can happen really quickly.
I love that. I love what you're sharing, because you're not coming in this like, I'm about to fix your entire business. This isn't Iyanla fix my life. But this is like, I'm going to listen to you. And then from there, we're going to design what it is that you desire. It sounds like you're pulling their desires out of them. Right. We have some people writing on YouTube. Renaya says, I love that, Carolyn. I can relate, because that's how she wants to do her business too, where she just comes in alongside to be a thought partner with her clients. And here you are living that dream and then sharing like, no, it's very much possible to have that. So I love that you're doing that. And then the fact that they're able to get the results so quickly is so powerful. So let me ask you this question. What are 3 key things that you typically share with your audience or with your clients that really helps them to experience the success so quickly?
Oh, wow. If this is a question you gave me in advance, I didn't prepare. So I don't even know if you gave me questions in advance. So the first thing is that self-reflection and really being honest with yourself about each of these pillars of your business and why. I've run tons of workshops on this stuff. I just don't do workshops anymore. But it's the pillars are first. The second is looking at your business model. What are you doing and what is the excess? And I used to sell a product on that called the Simplifier. I'm sure I have it around somebody. If somebody wants it. It's really an amazing process. And then what's the third thing? I think being curious and willing to experiment. Because I work with people in 90-day increments. And so we start with, this questionnaire, and then the half-day intensive, and then 90 days of go try it and tell me what you're hearing. How's it working out in the wild? And then coming back, and we meet whenever they want to meet. And we're just, when I said this was the response. And we never, sales is not about manipulation. It is reading and taking in what people's response is and saying, is this the right offer? Is there something we need to adjust? Is this really filling the need I thought it would? So all we're doing is adjusting, and it's super, so that's it. I think being curious and being willing to experiment rather than latching on. I had a client come to me one time. She goes, I want what Pia had, because I have case studies on my website. And I said, I'm not going to promise you that. I'm not going to promise you can book $180,000 within 30 days. And she goes, I want that. And I go, I know you do. Who doesn't? But you may not get that. It may take longer for you to make your 180,000 more. Well, and for her, it took all of 9 months. Yeah. Okay, still not bad, right?
Not bad.
So it's just, I think there is when we latch on to something, and just like what you said before, when we were talking about, those really rough days when I was in one of my dips, you can't attach to a thing or a person. You can attach to wanting to align and be in alignment with your business and the people you're serving. But I think when it starts to like attaching the old way you did business, even though it doesn't feel good anymore, attaching to a client, it's just not a healthy way of doing business.
I love it. I love each time you talk about the results you're able to help your clients to get, especially because it's unique to them. Like you said, you do one-on-one. It's for 90 days. It's unique for them. It's not cookie cutter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that you said that really stood out to me was to be curious. Because I think oftentimes fear is what hinders us from being curious. It's like, no, I've been doing this for so long, so let me just keep on doing it. Even though it may not be working, it's like, I don't want to let it go yet. But here you are saying, no, it's okay to explore. It's okay to be adventurous. It's okay to be curious, because that's really how you're going to end up to move into your seasons and also see the success that you want to see. So I think that is so powerful. So let me ask you this next question. How do you remain in alignment and stay true to yourself and what it is that you value as you are growing your business, as well as helping to grow Imposter Institute?
Yeah. I feel like there were so many times in my life and in the past 22 years where I would get out of integrity with myself, and it always backfired.
Wow.
And so why? Like it's as simple as that. It's like being out of integrity with yourself it's just not going to get you where you're meant to go and where you're meant to be. So it's that simple for me.
Yeah, love that. That's so powerful. I actually had to write it so it could pop up on the screen. Every time I got out of integrity with myself, it always backfired. That's a good way to remain in alignment, because it's like, this is what I value, this is what I believe in. But every time you stepped outside of it, it was like a trigger to let you know, oh, time to come back into it. And there are many business owners who may step outside of integrity, step outside of alignment, because they think this is what's going to help me to be successful. But when you remain with your values, when you remain in integrity, you start to see that your definition of success shifts. Like your purpose may not shift, but just your definition of success shifts. So I really love that you shared that. I think that is super powerful. And so let me ask you this. For those who are listening today and they are super inspired, how can they work with you? And as you're speaking, I'm going to go ahead and drop these links in the chat so they can get access.
Well, of course, I'm going to say start with the 5 pillars and doing a self-assessment on that. So I gave you a link. I think you're going to put in there. It's carolynherfurth.com/PSA, which stands for Pillars Self-Assessment. And as you know, it also means public service announcement. So PSA should be pretty easy. It's kind of both. And so that's really the first step, because you're going to go through that process. It's a form of reflection. If you choose not to click submit, so I never see your contact information, it's okay with me. I don't care. I want you to go through that process for yourself, and you can go through the whole thing without ever clicking submit at the end of the day. If you do want to click submit, we'll talk. And that conversation is really to talk about whether or not it's time for change, why you think it's time for change, what it is in your pillars that needs to be adjusted, and really what the effect and the opportunities are in making a change. And, I have limited time because I am managing partner of Imposter Syndrome Institute, but I have decided I'm going to take on the occasional client, because it's really important work. So is Imposter Syndrome Institute, but it's really important work to do this. It doesn't take a ton of my time. So, I just, if it makes sense, and if you want to really create, the additional revenue and feel more matched with your business based on who you've become versus who you were when you started your business, then I have a program called Beyond. And I think the link for that is Carolyn Herfurth. Yeah, you put it on there. that's beyond. And that is my 90-day sprint, I like to call it, where we really go deep on what needs to change. And it's a really reflective, but a fun process. It's a fun process. I remember, I just Pia's on my mind. She walked in, she had not slept the night before. She had a migraine. And she said, I walked out of here, no migraine. And she spent the weekend just updating her website and doing what she needed to do. She's also a fast action taker, so that's why she's successful. But that, it can be a fun process. And I think when there's change involved and fear involved, it can feel really heavy. And one of my top values is fun. So I'm just like, it's going to be fun. The conversation is going to be high energy. It's going to be a good, positive experience. So that's that, I want you to walk away going beyond where you are today, if that's what you want.
I love that. I think that's so powerful. And I like that you brought up Pia because you said she's a fast action taker. And I have this saying in my community, action takers are money makers, not time wasters. Yes, because oftentimes the entrepreneurs and business owners who are seeing the success is because they're not allowing fear to hinder them from taking action. Like, yes, it's a scary thing, right? But what's the worst that could happen? And even if the worst did happen, you still have control over it. So I've seen people take action pretty quickly. They're able to build six-figure businesses and multiple six-figure businesses. And I've seen people not take action at all, and they end up going back to a 9-to-5 or just completely giving up on their business, which there's nothing wrong with that either. But it's, what is it that you desire? What do you, if you say you want to be an entrepreneur, then it's time to take action. So I love that. Carolyn's links are inside the chat if anybody wants to get access to that. Again, Carolyn, it's helping you to go beyond your business model that you have now, go beyond where you are now so you get to your next season, your next level. So if you want to get access, all you have to do is click the second link. And as we are getting ready to wrap up, we only have 3 minutes left, but I want to know from you, what is the one decision that you made that helped you really get to the next level in your business?
Oh, I decided not to let fear get the best of me.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and resistance is a form of fear. Not filling out, not doing the self-reflection is a form of fear. It's like, and I'll remember, here's the moment. The moment was one of my coaches. I had just moved to New York. This is about 14 years ago. I decided, hey, I'm new here. Why not just like have an event and get 100 people to show up? Like, piece of cake, right? It was. I did sell out 2 weeks before the event. People showed up at the event, waiting in line, who didn't have tickets to this all one-day event. And so that all, I was kind of feeling, oh, wow, little unicorn here. She rolls in. But I didn't sell after that. It didn't work. And my coach said to me, and so I started making decisions from this place of smallness. And she said, how long are you going to make decisions based on fear? And I go, what do you even mean by that? I don't understand what you're saying. She goes, you're letting fear run the show. If you weren't letting fear run the show, what would you be doing differently? And that was the moment where I was like, oh, okay, you're going to have to explain it to me in 80 different ways. But now I understand, that was a very pivotal moment where someone for the first time in my life helped me see that, because I really hadn't made decisions from fear before. Everything just kind of felt like it was somewhat easy. I'm not saying I have any charm life or any special talents. It's just like I can find moments, but she was the first person to actually just be like, oh, that's you decide how long you want it to run. And then, then we'll see where you go.
Wow.
That was big. Jennifer Urizio. Yeah.
Love that. I love that. Here you were in this space where you were able to sell out very quickly. People came, but you walked away with this realization that I was making decisions from a small place. That part was so big. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have to add some color and context to this because I was not going to make an offer at that event. I wanted to be a goodwill event where people walked away just saying, well, what do you have? What can we do with you next?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
instead, I let fear and the voice of
Mhm.
one of my guru coaches, you can't have an event, you can't have a thing without the next thing.
Oh, I
And
see.
so I created an offer I didn't want to create.
Mm.
And my energy, back to energy,
Mhm.
was completely off when I was making that offer. And I remember in my like watching nobody run to the back of the room
Wow.
and just being mortified. I was absolutely mortified. I was embarrassed. I was humiliated. Nobody else probably even noticed, but
Right,
I
right.
did. And that was fear. I did something that went against what I really wanted that event to do.
Mhm.
And I think I would have sold piles and piles and piles of stuff if I
Mhm.
had not made an offer because
Yeah,
it's not who I am. I'm not a make an offer from the front of the room person.
yeah.
I'm just not, that's not who I am.
Oh,
So,
I love
yeah.
it. I love it. And I love that you gave the context because now it makes it even more, it makes the statement even more powerful that you made this
Mhm.
decision from a small place because you had someone else in your ear that was like, this is what you have to do. And when you're growing up in the coaching world and building your business, that is what we hear all the time. You can't have an event without making an offer. You can't do this, you can't do that. And so of course, in our minds, we're like, well, this is the coach. He or she knows what he's talking about. They're successful. I want to be successful. Let me do this, but you were out of alignment, and then you were able to see what that result cost you being out of alignment. But at the same time, I'm happy you had the experience because then you get to share that with us, that we need to be true to ourselves, like what
Mhm.
it is that we desire. And now here's the thing, the difference is you're not saying play into fear and not do it because you're afraid to do it. You're just saying stay in alignment with who you are. Like if
Mhm.
this is what you're called to do, then do that. If you're not called to do this, then don't do it. But I
Mhm.
love that because each episode that I've had here, every entrepreneur and business owner who have joined, they have had their own path. And oftentimes on social media, it can seem like there's only one path to success. It's not true. Everyone has their own path and you want to walk your path. So I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. Did you want to share any final words?
Oh, I think you just gave it a beautiful summary, actually. I really do. And it's so important to just own who you are and stay in integrity with that. And your body, your mind, your heart, everything will tell you when it's off. You can't ignore it. You
Mhm.
can't ignore it. But you also don't have to go like buy the next blueprint to fix it, you know? So
Part.
yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
have to buy the next blueprint to fix it. I love that. We have people in the audience just thanking you for your story, thanking you for your journey, and just for being open with us today. So I also want to say thank you because you have been such a gem on this podcast. I want to say thank you to everyone who joined us today, who was able to hear the story and just engage with us. This was another episode of Wisdom to Wealth. Wisdom is the root. So if you take what was shared with you today and you actually take action on it, you actually sow it, you actually get to reap wealth. Wealth is the fruit. So you all have a wonderful day today. We will see you again actually in 2 weeks. We're taking a break because of the holidays. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Thank you.